Now, this is going to be a bit of a surprise for you, I think. I have got Oscar Piastri in 10th place. Yeah, Piastri's done well, don't get me wrong. It's had a solid season, but I wouldn't say it's been much better than that. Lando Norris has taken a step up, whereas Piastri's kind of stayed at the same level he was in 2025 for me. Three standout drives, and I know that McLaren car, at best, this season has been the third quickest car. I know that it's definitely not as strong as the Mercedes or the Ferrari. I get that on most tracks. I do understand that. But for me, there's only been three races where he stood out. I mean, Japan was actually probably, in my opinion, one of his best, if not the best drive he's ever had in his career. I think it felt like he was punching above the McLaren's weight that race and fighting cars he shouldn't have been around at Japan. I thought that was a really great drive. And Austria as well was really good. I think he finished ahead of some cars he didn't deserve to finish ahead of, like Hamilton and Hadjar. He was really, really good there, and quite considerably better than his teammates actually at both of those tracks. So that was really impressive. Hungary unfortunately retired from the race, but yeah, he was leading a lot of that race until he retired, which was unfortunate. I mean, even at Hungary, Lando Norris had a clear pace advantage over him. But other than that, I can't really pick out one race where he's done really well. I feel like the reason why I've got him this low down is because for me he's too inconsistent. He'll have those races, but then he have races like Spain where he's doesn't have much pace. I'm not going to say Piastri's been poor. He hasn't been poor at all. I just don't think he hasn't set the world alight really for me. In ninth place, I have got Oliver Bearman. Obviously, recently that Haas car hasn't been anywhere near good enough to challenge for points. Having said that, the Haas at the start of the year was able to challenge for points, and Bearman did pick up, and Bearman did deliver the goods. He's on, how many points is he on? Bearman's on 18 points. He scored a 5th place finish at China. He finished 7th at the opening race in Melbourne, best of the rest. China, once again, he finished best of the rest in the main race. He scored a 5th place finish, and he got another point in the sprint race as well. At Canada, he scored a point. So, I mean, he's only scored on 4 occasions, but I feel like he's more or less maximised the performance of that car, without a doubt, in the first half of the season. In the first few races. Ocon as well. He's up, 8-3 in terms of qualifying. He's clearly the number 1 driver at Haas. It's unfortunate that I can't put him any higher, because honestly, if it was based on the first few races of the season, he might have even been in my top 5. But unfortunately, that Haas car has dropped off dramatically ever since ever since the first few races, unfortunately. In 8th place, I have got George Russell. For me, the most disappointing driver of the season based on my expectations of him. I thought he was going to walk this championship this year. Even if Antonelli made a step up this year, I just thought Russell had it in the bag prior to the season when I saw how quick Mercedes were during pre-season testing. He's seemingly been exposed in this regulation cycle. He can't adapt to the regulations. I don't think it's a mental thing. Having said that, the mental, maybe mentally he's struggling because of how he's struggling to adapt to the regulations, if that makes sense. Maybe it's a knock-on effect. I can't think of one race this season where Russell has genuinely been faster than Antonelli. I mean, there's been races where he's been the better driver, like Australia and Austria. But he wasn't faster in the races. With Australia, Russell out-qualified Antonelli, and Antonelli got a poor start. and that's how he won the race. And Austria was down to the yellow flag due to Anthony lifting during the yellow flag and Russell didn't. The reason, the only reason why I haven't got him lower is because Russell is, to be fair, up against a special talent in Antonelli. It's fair to say that Antonelli, these regulations really suit him down to the T. Part of being a Formula One driver is a skill in Formula One is adaptability, and Russell hasn't adapted to these new regulations. It's as simple as that. He's behind Lewis Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship as well, and Hamilton's in a worse car. Disappointing. I mean, we've also seen with Russell as well, his wheel-to-wheel combat has been, I wouldn't say bad, but he isn't as clinical as Antonelli. I mean, Russell really struggled to get past the Ferraris at China. It took a lot longer than what Antonelli did to carve his way through those Ferraris at China. This has been Russell's worst season in F1, possibly yet. I mean, maybe you could argue 2023 is worse. I mean, it is not like, Russell's been, within a handful of seconds of Anthony on the checker flag. I mean, he was so slow relative to Antonelli at Miami. He was like losing half a second a lap relative to his teammate. And, at Silverstone, he was, not much better there. I mean, the result flatters him in the end because of Antonelli's retirement, and Mercedes' genius strategy at the end to pip Hamilton under the safety car. But an impossibility, actually. If Russell's bad form continues, if Ferrari actually nab the constructors off Mercedes at this rate, because I know Leclerc hasn't had the best of seasons, but I'd still say Leclerc has been a better second driver, if you like, to Hamilton than what Russell has been to Antonelli. It's really disappointing. I think Russell's comments, when I said mentally it's not a mental issue, is I'm going to kind of contradict myself. His comments in the pen, they don't strike me as someone who actually believes that they can win the title. In 7th place, I have got Carlos Sainz in the Williams. Carlos Sainz, for the vast majority of the season, has had a really great season, I have to say. He's consistently getting the most out of that Williams car and sometimes outperforming it. He's been that good. Albon 8-2 the qualifying sessions, and 6-4 in the races. And I'm surprised that gap in the races isn't bigger, because Sainz has definitely been the better of the two in the races and race conditions. I think that might be skewed because of retirements. I'm not sure how many retirements. Often putting a few tenths on Albon in qualifying, and is finishing, more than a handful of seconds ahead of Albon come the checker flag. He's been really, really good for the Williams team this year. He's picked up 3 9th places in that Williams car, which has overall been the 9th quickest car. That is no mean feat in the Williams. He's been absolutely superb. I'd say China was one of the drivers of the season. I'd go as far to say that, because he was, he finished ahead of, in that race, Lindblad, Hulkenberg, both of whom were in, faster cars than the Williams. But he also finished ahead of Colapinto as well, in that Alpine. Now, I know Colapinto was spun out by Ocon, but to be even able to capitalise on that incident in itself, when the Williams should be nowhere near the Alpine car in terms of pace, I thought that was an incredible drive at China by Carlos Sainz. Japan, he finished ahead of Colapinto there again. 12th at Spain, he came quite close to scoring points from what I remember of that Grand Prix. Yeah, I don't see what else he could have done really. What more he could have done in that car? And the fact that he didn't, look out for the blue flags out on the track at Hungary and didn't. When Piastri was coming to lap him, he returned back onto the racing line. I am aware that he did do that and hampered Piastri's race, but other than that, he's been quite incredible actually. It's a shame he's not in a better car because I feel like he still deserves to be in a top team. I feel like he's still better than a few of the drivers who are actually in top teams right now, to be honest, and that's why I've got him 7th. I think based on his performances this year, I think he warrants being in a top drive. We have got Charles Leclerc. He's been... this has arguably actually been his worst season, but I mean, in terms of worst seasons for Leclerc, this has still been a good one. He just hasn't had the consistency. I think Hamilton has had his inconsistencies, but in terms of pace and, in terms of severity of errors, I feel like Leclerc's errors and inconsistencies are more severe than what Hamilton's has been. I mean, he went on a five-race streak of being beaten by Hamilton, from Miami to Austria. It's been a bit of a tough season for Leclerc. He's only 30 points behind Hamilton. He hasn't been a disaster, but I think going into this season, especially after the season that Hamilton had last year, I think we all expected, well, most of us expected Leclerc to be the number one driver, and it hasn't quite happened like that. He's had weekends like Silverstone, Australia, where he's had the upper hand on Hamilton, and Silverstone was a great drive, by the way. He deserved that win. I think out of all the drivers on the grid that day, I think he drove the best out of anyone really, even better than Antonelli, because Antonelli had a poor start. And to be fair to Leclerc, he's still been relatively close to Hamilton. I'd say out of the 10 races we've had this year, I'd say there's been 4 races where he's been the quicker driver, not necessarily the better driver, but the quicker driver. I mean, Hamilton's only leading the race head-to-head 6-5, so it's still been relatively close. So I think his pace hasn't completely vanished. Absolutely not. He's still, when he's finishing behind Hamilton, he's generally not an awful long way behind him. He's relatively close to him. He's there or thereabouts, but I haven't been amazed or particularly wowed, for the want of a better term, by Leclerc's performances. It's been good, but not great. So yeah, that's why I can't put him in my top 5. I feel like it would be unfair to the top 5 drivers who've put in really great seasons. So yeah. In 5th place, I have got Lando Norris. Lando Norris has had a great season, no doubt about it. He's been usually the one McLaren driver that McLaren can rely on to deliver the points. He's been really, really quick at most tracks, I would say. I wouldn't say he's had bulletproof consistency. I think Piastri definitely had the measure of him at Austria and at Japan. But other than that, I can't really fault what he's done for the McLaren team this year. I mean, that McLaren car has probably been the 3rd quickest car, I'd say. Close with Red Bull. He's frequently probably got the most out of it, I would say. In particular, was such a great weekend for Lando Norris. He won the sprint race, and he came agonisingly close to winning that race. Miami, he was really, he had electrifying pace at Miami. Hungary as well, he won the race there. He he kind of mucked up turn 2 by going wide and letting the door open for Piastri to come through. And I know he benefited a little bit from strategy, but Lando Norris was the quicker driver that weekend. His pace was sensational. So I really can't see how he really can fault his season other than those two slightly off weekends. But even then, they weren't terrible weekends for him. Norris in fourth, it's Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly's consistency was so great as he scored a at least a point at every race weekend. So Australia 10th, China 6th, Japan 7th. At Miami, scored a point at sprint race, 8th at Canada, 3rd at Monaco. That was a brilliant drive. He really was outperforming that Alpine car. I mean, he managed to get ahead of Norris at the start of the race, and he basically put himself in the best position possible to capitalise on other drivers' misfortunes. He actually got that podium taken away from him initially, but he got reinstated, and it was such a great drive that was. He really was pushing above his weight in that Alpine. He was so good that weekend. It was quite clear the rest of the midfield as well, including his teammate. 3rd at Monaco, 7th at Spain. Basically, since the Spanish Grand Prix, the Alpine car has gone down in terms of pace. It's kind of been outdeveloped by RB and even Audi, actually, which is unfortunate because Gasly's driven so well. And for me, he has been the clear best midfield driver this year. I know he's been up against Franco Colapinto, and he's not the greatest of benchmarks, far from it on the grid, but he's no slouch. He's a Colapinto's a decent F1 driver, and Pierre Gasly is thrashing it. And it's been 9-2 in favour of Gasly, and in the race it has been quite a bit closer. But again, Gasly has had the edge on Colapinto 6-5. And it should also be mentioned that Gasly has been a lot more consistent in his results. I mean, I can't think of a race weekend where Gasly hasn't had a good race, to be honest with you. I mean, at Miami and Canada, it did look like Colapinto possibly had the edge on him at Miami and Canada. But other than that, he's been basically faultless this year as Gasly. 42-19 is the ratio in points between the two drivers. Obviously, 42 in the favour of Gasly. He has dominated Colapinto. It's the only criticism I will have, I guess. I know I've called him basically faultless. The only thing I will say is, ever since Spain, where the car has become less competitive relative to RB, Colapinto has started to match him here and there at certain Grand Prix. If Gasly can keep on, asserting himself as the number one driver in that team and beat him consistently like he was doing in the first 7 races or so, then I'd like to see him keep doing that. I do have Gasly ahead of Lawson. I think some people would probably put Lawson, a bit higher on this list. Gasly has dominated Colapinto more. He's beaten Colapinto by a bigger margin. Now, I do, granted, that's not an entirely fair comparison, Gasly to Colapinto and Lawson to Lindblad. I think, because I think Arvid Lindblad has been stronger than Colapinto. But if you look at, regardless of that, if you look at the head-to-heads, Gasly is dominating Colapinto. And even though the points ratio between Lawson and Lindblad, it does look like, Lawson is dominating Arvid Lindblad. That hasn't necessarily been the case. They've been much closer than the points tally show. I do actually think Gasly would do a good job for a top team. I genuinely, I think you put him in a Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, possibly, even though he had a rough experience with Red Bull previously, I think he would do well. I'm not saying he'd necessarily be, at a World Championship caliber level, but I don't think he'd be doing any worse than the likes of Piastri, Hadjar, Russell, even Sainz, Leclerc, and Norris. I can't really think of many times when he hasn't maximise the car, maximise the amount of points you can realistically collect for that team. And hasn't made very many mistakes. The only big error he made was at Belgium, where he crashed in practice. But other than that, he has been, he's had a fantastic season. In third place, I have got Lewis Hamilton. Now, for the first few races, we did notice improvement in his form relative to last year. And I'm like, okay, Lewis Hamilton is, starting to improve. He's nowhere near his best, but he's getting there. He's finally gelling with the Ferrari car. He scored a fourth place at Australia, just behind his teammate. Third at China, which was a great drive, and he's always gone well at China, even last year. Japan, sixth place. Miami, sixth place. And Japan and Miami, those were kind of the races where he was dipping more so into his 2025 form of not really being quite with it. But then at Canada, he stopped, and we heard that he stopped going on the simulator, and got a podium with a second place at Canada, and comfortably ahead of his teammate that weekend. And Monaco, he was better than his teammate as well, with second place. And then he finally got his first win with Ferrari, with a first place at Spain. He benefited from the virtual safety car of that track. However, he had the pace that weekend. He was by far the quickest driver on the track and would have won the race anyway. Fifth at Austria, once again ahead of his teammate. But then from that point onwards, he hasn't really been quite on the same form as he was in the middle of the season. Well, middle of the first half of the season, because then he started to pick up penalties. At Silverstone, he moved before the start, moved before the lights. At Belgium, he had a crash in FP3, which kind of derailed his whole weekend. Hungary, he blocked Piastri in qualifying, and in the race, he sped in the pit lane, got a 5-second time penalty, and for the Piastri incident, he got a 3-place grid penalty. So his inconsistency, he has had inconsistencies in terms of pace, and as well as making silly errors. And that is why I haven't got him in second place, because I think his highs have been really, really high, but his lows have been, I wouldn't say really low, but lower than lower than the guy I have in second place. The guy in second place has been more consistent for me throughout the season, and that's why I have Lewis Hamilton in third. But it's great to see him doing really well again, and hopefully he can find the form he had at the likes of Spain, at the likes of Canada again, and hopefully he can try and convert those race and try and find that form more often during the second half of the season, shall we say. In sixth, I have got Max Verstappen. Actually, I think he's had quite an underrated year. I think he's performed a bit better than what people give him credit for. He hasn't dropped off his form. I mean, he just hasn't had the car to contend for the championship this year. He's still had plenty of good results. He's still the main breadwinner for that Red Bull team, scoring the majority of the points, the vast majority of the points. He was also being pretty unlucky with reliability issues, and especially rear wing failures. I'll run you through some of his best performances, just to show you. I mean, at Canada, he was running second in that race with the fourth best car that weekend. That Red Bull car wasn't particularly good at Canada, and yet he was running ahead of Lewis Hamilton for the vast majority of that race. At Monaco, he actually qualified second and was within half a tenth, I think it was, of Antonelli. And he put that Red Bull car higher than what it should have been at that track, because it definitely wasn't the second quickest car, and yet he put it there. So that was a great job by him. Unfortunately, he couldn't start the race, otherwise he'd be on for pretty much a guaranteed second place at Monaco. I have to say it as well. Austria, he grabbed second place, and had it not been for that rear wing failure in qualifying, he could have gone and won that race, because his race pace was much faster than Russell's. Silverstone, he was on for a podium there, but unfortunately rear wing failure. Belgium, another podium. And Hungary, he finished second place, and wow, what a move he made on Lewis Hamilton. Clinical, late on the brakes. That was, for me, the best move of the season. So Verstappen's clearly still got the pace to contend for the championship stuff. He hasn't dropped off during this new era of cars. The Red Bull car just hasn't been there for him to contend for the championship, which is, a real shame, because he's easily one of the best, if not the best driver on the grid. I mean, at worst, he's the second best driver on that grid, let's be honest. And the reason I have him ahead of Lewis Hamilton is because his results are more consistent. He's made less errors. And I think if he was in that Ferrari car, I'm not saying he'd be winning the championship. I'm not saying he would be in the lead of the championship, but I think he would be closer to Antonelli than Hamilton would be. And I think he'd be beating Leclerc more regularly than what Lewis Hamilton has been doing. I'm not saying Hamilton's done a bad job. I just think Verstappen's just more consistent. And let's be honest, I think we can agree. I think Hamilton is not, Hamilton's still not quite at his best, even though he's still at a really good level. I think Max Verstappen, I think we can all agree at this stage of his career is the better driver. First race, I have got Andrea Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. What a phenomenal season that Antonelli has put in. What a phenomenal season. He's leading the championship by 50 points. He's done such a fantastic job this year. I know the Mercedes car, for the most part, has been the dominant car, but he's absolutely blown Russell out of the water. He really has. There have been only minor errors he's made this season. Everything else has just been basically flawless by him. He's done such a good job in that Mercedes car. The fact that he, on his worst days, he's finishing when he hasn't had problems like running on the serrated curb, which damaged his car. On his worst days, he's still finishing on the podium. And that's the hallmark of a world champion right there. He's proven that he's special, and he's probably he's probably a generational talent. He really is. He's been absolutely incredible. And he also won his first 5 races. He's the first driver to win his first 5 races in a row in the sport. He's done so well. It's been a monumental step up from him compared to last year. I mean, last year, for the most part, he looked not out of depth to be an F1, I would say, but out of depth at a top team like Mercedes. But this year, he's taken a monumental step up. This is like 2 different drivers. It's been unbelievable. I mean, I prior to this season, if you would have asked me, and I think the majority of the F1 community, I think it's fair to say, I think we would have put money on Russell being the one to take home the title. But now it looks like it's Antonelli's to lose. I think at best, Hamilton's got a 25% chance of clinching the World Championship. Even then, that's probably a bit too high because, I think the likes of McLaren and the Red Bull are going to be competitive with the Ferrari in the second half of the season, and Hamilton will have to beat all those drivers. Never mind Antonelli. I think Antonelli is unstoppable. I mean, his consistency already is mind-blowing. He's eye-wateringly consistent. He's already got a stranglehold on this championship. He's not only finishing ahead of Russell, a lot of the season he's well clear of Russell. It's been absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, you can't have anyone else other than Antonelli in first place. He's just had an outstanding season. Thank you for watching part 2 of my driver rankings from 10th to 1st. Comment down below your driver rankings. If you've watched both episodes, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.